aquatics for you today, which is usually our most popular subject. So hopefully you guys will answer any questions that he asks of each day. We'll see.
Okay. We'll see. All right. Thanks, Tamika, and thanks for our friend Joey for giving a good overview of the agencies. As you've seen that these are large agencies that we're working and have a whole lot of different functions, like, for example, the Office of Soil and Water Conservation, etc. Soil and water, they're put together. You don't just necessarily look at soils or just look at water, although they're delineated in such a fashion for this competition. Rather, they're put together because they interact in meaningful ways. And that's a big part of this. To begin with, this is certainly a competition and so on. There are prizes, there are things you can win. But the whole point here is to help you along with education. In fact, if you really put a little bit of time in here and study this, you can come out of this, even though you may be a teenager, with significantly less life experience than 40, 50-year-old adults, you may have a much better understanding of the environment and various issues than the majority of adults. So that's the whole point of this. There's a competitive element, but don't get too caught up in winning. Otherwise, you can put a whole lot of good tools in the toolbox that is your brain and carry them with you for a lifetime. That a good understanding of some very, very important issues. I mean, personally, I think we can certainly get by without new iterations of the gizmo, etc. Can't go too far without clean water, clean air, clean soil. Nothing that, and I like those gizmos. They're a lot of fun, and in fact, those really have helped us in the work that we do. But without clean, how long do you think you go without drinking good water? How long? Minutes, days, weeks, hours, seconds. Maybe a few days. I mean, there have been stories of survival where people made it, just did crazy stuff like just straight walk right out of the desert in the hottest part lasted for 6 days. But a few days can't be too much. That's why we try to keep it clean. Why we try to protect our soil. Why we protect our wildlife. Why we take care of these resources. Anyway, first of all, at any time, if y'all got questions, let me know. You can just call it. Don't have to raise your hand or anything. Let me know. We're going to cover a number of things here today before we move on to orals. But have y'all seen our Be the Solution campaign? Let's say Louis the Talking Crawfish. Okay. He represents us as a relative water. Might have seen Louis. Anyway, we've got a whole bunch of things here that we're just going to, gosh. We got bracelets, we got bookmarks, we got a whole bunch of good things that all have a lot to do with water. And the whole point of the Be the Solution, I guess I'll just go ahead and put them up here at the table. But the whole point of this Be the Solution campaign, if you look at it, think about it, you can see that together, if you can see it too much here, you can see more on this. Together, you and I can be part of the solution. Feel free to help yourself like it's trick or treat before you leave here. Got a whole lot of like bookmarks, pencils, etc. Welcome to take them, take some for your friends, and so on. Anyway, have y'all ever seen one of these? No dumping, drains the river, etc. Okay. Where do we typically put these? What do we use them for? That's it. That's tell people not to dump. They're commonly referred to as storm drain markers. We put them by storm drain. If we think that storm drain dumping is a problem, that's just one of the tools we have to help people keep water clean. Put them down there. You can get that. They can be. I think they started with stencils, where people would just take a cardboard stencil. I saw them back in Florida in the early '90s. And spray painting message. They can be plastic, stainless steel, brass, aluminum, etc. You can attach them with adhesive, construction adhesive, where you can bolt them, rivet them. That's just one of the tools we got that we have to protect water. There are a whole bunch of them. We've given these out to a number of groups, like the Eagle Scout project type of things, and to communities where people need to stop dumping. What's the only thing that you go down a storm drain? That's just water. Just water. Because it's not going to get treated typically in a situation. Those storm drains, and that system exists to quickly and effectively channel water to keep an area from flooding. Now, that's different from, I guess you would say, a septic system, a sewer system, where your house is going to discharge your gray and black water that's going to be, or should be treated. Any questions on anything that I've covered so far or talked about? Okay, if you all have questions, just let me know. Like our Make Changes and Be the Solution program, this little thing relates to water here. It says that everything you blow, spray, pour, throw on the ground can get washed down the storm drain and pollute Louisiana's waters. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will. It's no guarantee. You put a bubble gum wrapper in the middle of it and they just sit there for a long time. But it could. Therefore, we want to try to keep things off the ground where they can end up in the water or somewhere they shouldn't be. Right? A few little things here. Recycle oil. Don't pour that down the drain. What happens if we pour oil down the drain? Pour it down the storm drain. And that has happened. There are plenty of people that have done exactly that. Like in the 70s, when they wanted to change it, would just drive it right over the, take it off and let it drain out and screw and put your filter back on and have a few more pours. That could cause a lot of problems. That's not something you want to be down here. Okay, use less fertilizer and pesticides. Why would we want to do that? Why would we just want to use what we need? Any guesses? Anyone, please? It could do that. I mean, it can certainly. What happens when you get a lot of pesticides? Or not pesticides, or rather fertilizers in the water? What are certain things that can happen? Algal blooms, correct? That can certainly happen. What you're doing is putting in nutrients that are typically delivered to facilitate desirable vegetative and plant growth, good crops, good in an ornamental garden. You put that in the water, and all of a sudden you can get a lot of algae, microbiota flourishing in there. I mean, obviously it's unsightly. You can have various problems. You can diminish the value of aesthetic beauty, etc., and other things of that water. It damages the drinking source and so on. Okay? Mulch or bag grass clippings. Why would we want to do that? Any guesses? Any ideas? Okay. They can get washed down a storm drain as well. Or go somewhere just get blown into a river, etc. Eventually, those are going to be decomposed by microbiota that can take oxygen out of the water. When we don't have acceptable oxygen levels in the water, what can happen? That's one thing you may see on TV, not some of them. Fish, yeah. Yeah, that's true. You see a lot floating at the surface, and then it could be DEQ, it could be wildlife and fisheries, all the various agencies may go investigate and say, okay, what's going on. Could be a number of things, all right? Bag pet waste. How's that important? How's that helpful? Any ideas there? Well, for one, you don't want to get it on your shoe. It stinks, and you have to wipe it off. In waste, you can find a number of bacteria, which can be really, in some cases, deadly. I want to say cases like when kids let any kidney pool. Somebody actually ingested water. Same type of thing. We want to keep those bacteria, species we look at a lot in Louisiana, is fecal coliform bacteria, out of the water. And by picking up poop, or from a dog, or trying to keep livestock out of the stream, that's one way we can keep our water healthy. Don't litter. Kind of implicit. Anything you put down there could end up get washed, going into a body of water where you don't want it. I remember doing volunteering at LSU lakes cleaning. Some people on the shore, some people on canoes, and what you can pull out of there is absolutely amazing. Kind of sad. Not amazing in a good way. It's like, oh my gosh. I remember, tricycles, etc. Oh gosh, frisbees, all kinds of, can bottles, etc. Sitting at the bottom of it. And then again, you also, I probably seen pictures, if not seen with your own eyes, where somebody likes to dump appliances or something like a washing machine, even a dryer in the creek. You're just craziness there. All part of our campaign, which relates a lot to water and hits on a few things that everyone can do. You don't have to have a chemical plant, be a CEO or attorney that makes goodness, who tries to pass environmental legislation to make a difference. Each individual's actions can make a big difference. So all this up here, pencils, bookmarks, etc. Free here at the end. Help yourself, take some with you if you'd like. From there, I guess we'll start to get into some more of the material that's sort of test specific. If y'all got questions on any of this, let me know if you agree or disagree or anything. Feel free to speak up. Okay, to begin with respect to the test, etc. I've emailed Tamika. I believe she'll pass on to the sponsors 2 things that would be most helpful for your review of a study guide. Kind of go over that for aquatics here. And then the stream insects and crustaceans sheet. Those 2 things. Those would be pretty helpful to know if you want to get a good score on the aquatics. Next, I'm going to cover some equipment here that's pretty simple and inexpensive, but can give you a good idea of how you on your own can make some type of an assessment on at least part of a body of water. From get one for $1 or $2 or something phenomenal. Put it in the water. How does that give you an idea of the state of the water body? Any idea?
How cold it is.
Right, how hot or cold it is. I mean, there's is it fun to jump in a, freezing pool or something like New Year's Eve? Like some crazy people do, like polar bear fun, polar bear. Not me. I grew up in Florida, anything below 70s cold. But same thing with some critters. Of course, some can take it, some go for it. Some aren't. Like at the zoo, it's still going to have so much requirement. In New Orleans Zoo, somebody accidentally let the monkeys get out and they died during the winter. When it got really cold, same type of thing. I mean, just like an intense frost would kill off plants. It can be good, you may not have to mow your gardens, but same type of thing. I mean, real hot. It can get real hot. A lot of these fish kills occur when it's really, really hot, which is sort of a function of oxygen. I mean, there's a correlation between dissolved oxygen and temperature levels with respect to that. pH paper. Simple little paper that you can pick up, and literally you just put it in water or substance, and then you look at a chart, all right, to see roughly what pH it is. Ever had an aquarium at home? Anything like that? Like fish, etc. at home? If you want to take care of your fish, make sure they live hopefully a long, good, healthy, happy lifespan. That's important there. Some fish don't last long if you don't take care of them. pH. These are things that DEQ monitors on water bodies around the state. Okay? There's different ways to measure things, and the concept of turbidity, and this is one. Do you know what turbidity is? More or less? That's correct. That's correct. Turbidity. It can refer to the amount of substances and properties in the water, but yes, it's how clear, for example, the water is. For example, like these soft drinks here, these two, you got the Sprite and the Coke. Sprite, you can look at the top, see all the way through, you know what's beneath, etc. Coke, you can't do it. Coke is a lot more turbid. All right. Ever heard of a thing called SecuDisc? I think it's on the study guide, SecuDisc. It's pretty simple. It's a black and white disc, wooden disc. You put it on a string. Consider you measure out increments on the string, like how far down you are. you lower it into the water till it disappears. Right? And that, and that's a no-tech, very simple way of finding out turbidity. This, what's kind of here, is a turbidity tube. Operates on literally the same principle, meaning that you can scoop this in water, and you've got a little clamp up here, and you can just let it out slowly until it's at the bottom. And you've got a scale here that measures the depth. And from there, you can convert it to one of a number of types of units. But that gives you an easy way to quantify turbidity with respect to a body of water, saying clear, oh, it's really clear, cloudy, kind of cloudy, or really cloudy. That gives you a simple, oh, there you go. Joey's got it, okay. That's it, same type of principle. You got it. Okay. Something you could really make yourself. I've heard of people using white tennis shoes too. You can see they got the little marks here on that. You can just lower that rascal in. It's got a nice weight here on the bottom. Just lower it down until it disappears. Make it look.
It's tungsten alloy too.
Oh, okay. No paint. All right, tungsten. Okay. Thanks. If y'all got anyone has anything, to chime in, make comments here about the water. Seriously, add to this or discussion. Feel free. Thank you. It's pretty simple. You got wood, metal, string. All right. Little chemical catching it to measure dissolved oxygen. This one's expired. What you do here, take a little sample of water. You've got some pipettes in here that are preloaded with the reagent. Let it react, etc. for a known amount of time. And then you would just simply match it up to a scale which has parts per million, milligrams per liter here. And that would give you an idea of dissolved oxygen. Just like anything else, aquatic well needs oxygen to breathe. Fish, etc. Through their gills. Same time. Think they don't get enough dissolved oxygen up there. That's it for them. Another property, you can take this back. Okay. Look at insects here in a minute. Ever looked at a stream, seen insects, see what's crawling around on the bottom? Never tried to do that? Okay. Every time on land where you take a big net and you just drag it through the grass, at a scoop net and see what's there. Sometimes you can find all kinds of things. Sometimes you won't. Depends on the thing. Anyway, this is a pretty simple thing you can do. In fact, it correlates quite well to the stream insects and crustaceans. Should be on the email y'all here. Got a little guide, and you've got various classifications of aquatic insects. Full principle on this. So you can stand on the bank, you call waders, go to one of the different parts of the stream, different habitats. Assuming this is a foot across, you take this, scoop it, for a certain number of period of time, lift it up, let everything settle out, take like a dish pan, dump it out, get all your critters out of there, count and see what you got. That can give you an idea of aquatic health as well. We had a couple students do a project down in the New Orleans area that got some awards, looking at aquatic macro invertebrates down there. Myself and one of our senior scientists assisted, and others assisted in that project. Simple ways you can get an idea of what's going on around your area. Bugs are, they're really pretty small in here, but water pennies and scuds, but you can be surprised at times what you can find in habitats, especially when you look around the banks. So sheets that I'm going to mail out is going to help y'all with that.
That's actually already on the web.
Oh, it's on the web?
Unless you
Okay.
changed it. That's the same one, right?
Should be the same one as we had before. You're welcome to take a look at that. That can give you a good idea. All right. So far, I've showed you all some tools that you can do, get an idea of water conditions, I don't know, in your backyard, et cetera, wherever. On a professional level, like DEQ could be LDNF, LDAF, considered wildlife and fisheries. When we want to make serious measurements, we're going to we're going to get a computerized display here that would be attached to a cable up here that's going to be attached to a probe, etc. And we would take that. Various sensors here, along with the storage water in here. Various sensors depending on what you're going to measure. And you would take that, take it to a bridge, take it to a body of water, etc. And you can measure a whole number of properties with that depending the probes on them. Like all that you just saw right there, the pH, dissolved oxygen, temperature, turbidity, can all be measured with this probe being hooked to that cable via to that display right here. Right? And this is going to be calibrated in the laboratory. These aren't cheap. That's how you would see a lot of our ambient measurements, things that you would look at online. All right, any questions on that? On the equipment, etc. we talked about, discovered? Go ahead, yes.
So it has to like stay in the water. There's like it's like sitting in the water.
Depending on the sensors that you've got. Correct. Depending on some do need to be stored in others not necessarily, but some certainly are stored in a liquid. It could, depending on the probe, it can be just water, it could be a type of solution, different type of solution, etc. Correct. Okay. Now, some parameters we cannot measure or don't really want to try to measure with the probe, but rather require laboratory analysis. Y'all know what this is? No? No? Okay, this is a graph sample. This is typically going to be hooked up to a rope or a chain, sometimes with gradations on it, just like you got your Secchi bits, so you know how far to sink it. What we do, like you may lower this thing off a bridge, haul it up, pour it out, and you do that to rinse it, lower it down again, let it fill up, haul it up, and pour it, the water, into a sterile container that is going to be sent to a laboratory for analysis. For example, trace metals, nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. And you're going to get those values via laboratory analysis. That sample is going to be stored typically on ice, stored at a cool temperature, eventually driven to one of our accredited laboratories, where analyses will be performed on that sample. So that's how we get a lot of data that you can see. If you go online, you can look at our ambient data network and get an idea for what we've read across the state. Let's sort of split things up into about 476 different subsegments. In Louisiana, there's a number of sampling sites where we take water. So those are a lot of these two are professional tools of the trade. Although pretty much you can get some significant value out of what you see right there, like kids and science fair projects and so on. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay. Let's start to cover more of the study guide and so on. We'll run through things. So by now I've covered a bit of aquatics, and you listen to other presentations as well, where really start to take things to the next level, to give it, really ratchet things up, is start seeing how the various stations, how the various disciplines interact, like the effect that one has on the other. How would water affect forestry, for example? How would forestry affect wildlife? How could wildlife affect? So start to see things to where you get a synergy between them. Once you do that, I mean, it's more than like, okay, you know the electrical system of a car. Well, okay, you understand how exhaust, but you understand how power is generated. And so then once you see how the systems fit together, all of a sudden, you've got, okay, I think a much better understanding how the vehicle works as a whole. Various components. This is coming from the study guide. There, slide revisions made this year online. How much of the Earth's surface is covered with water? 10, 20, 30? You say about 70? Yeah, that's not, yeah, pretty much this is 70, 71%. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty good. How much of all the world, percentage-wise, is drinkable? How much? 20-ish, one, I'm going to say, yes? Okay. Right here, and this is, it's small finger, yeah, it's at 0.003%. Not very much.
There you
know,
go.
all the stuff that's strapped at the poles, etc. So it's a precious resource, even though you can see a whole lot of it. All right? Where do we get our drinking water from in Louisiana? Aquifers is one. Yep. Aquifers and surface water. We can get it from both. That's correct. That's correct. How much rain do we receive a year in Louisiana? How many inches a year? Inches a year. Do we receive a decent bit? 50 or 80 inches? Around, well, they say here around 62, 63 inches a year. It varies. You get the least up near the Shreveport area, and you get the most probably around, well, I've seen on, I've got maps, probably around East Feliciana Parish and North Baton Rouge, around 70, 71. Average it all out, etc. Do more people in Louisiana get their drinking water from groundwater or surface water? Any guesses? Is it groundwater? It's groundwater. Y'all are correct. About 2/3. That's it. That's it. The aquifer levels stay the same? Is it always constant there? Yes. No. Say no. No, certainly not. It flows. I mean, it's very clean. Typically, the water down there now is filtered through various layers of bacteria. One important issue, just like anything else, is we don't draw down too much. Don't just take more out. I mean, that is important. Okay. What do we use water for? How many Thanksgiving lists can you think of? A lot of stuff. That's right. Drink it for one. You got it right there on the table. In the banquet, food was prepared in there. Water is used so it can be better, etc. All kinds of things to keep clean. My goodness, the processes to make the bottles that liquid's in there, and so on and so on. Not too many to count. I mean, to make the food that we ate there, etc. Pizza. Couldn't have the vegetables, or you couldn't have the animals that were on there without that water, and so on. Familiar with the concept of a watershed? Y'all know what that is? You've heard of it? Okay. Any way to define it? How would you define it? Any guesses? Think of it as within an area where all the water within that area runs to a certain point. And then all the water in it is going to come to a certain point. That's a watershed. Watersheds exist on many, many different scales. Many different scales. You can look at, let's say DEQ, we have around about 476 subsegments that we consider unit watersheds. The USGS uses a hydrological unit code, which ranges from 2 digits to 12 digits. Take a look at that online for me. Wetlands, y'all familiar with that? How would you define those? Yeah, that's true. You need some water there. I believe you specifically need a certain amount of water there, I believe, with types of vegetation and soils. I still think it's the case where the only agency that can really officially delineate and designate a wetland is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And the Corps of Engineers, typically their mission in respect to water is looking at flow, often with respect to flooding. Whereas, for example, with water, the Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ here, we look at water respect and maintaining it as a natural resource protecting that. Where DHH would take more of a look to see that, okay, can you drink this? Can you swim in it? Though, we look at that too. We have a number of designated uses that pertain to those two functions as well. Heard of riparian zone? That term riparian, R-I-P-A-R-I-A-N. Ever heard of that? No? Okay. You can think of that as a habitat that's along a stream bank, whenever it's in the soils, the trees, shrubs, vegetation. And so, a lot goes on. A lot goes on along there. I don't know if I covered this in soils, but within just like a gram of soil, you can have, oh gosh, thousands, hundreds of thousands of microorganisms living potentially. You got life at different scales. I mean, along a river, riparian zone, is a good example of how all these station topics, all this stuff comes together. For example, that water can support a lot of life, be it animal life. Critters come there to drink. I mean, they have to get somewhere. The vegetation along there. You've got the vegetation along there that serves as a method to hold the soil in place. So hopefully keep things together. The trees, for example, can influence the amount of sunlight between on the vegetation that enters the river, which affects heating fluid and dissolved oxygen, which affects some other species and so on. Changing any little one thing will potential to change a whole lot. You've got a whole ecosystem just in a certain area. What's the only natural substance that's typically found in three different states on the Earth's surface? Any guess? Right?
So 3 different states.
Correct. 3 different states of matter. That's it. That's it. Think about how unique water is right there. For example, you can hear the concept of a hydraulic jack. It can takes advantage of the fact that you really can't compress water, and by putting water within a jack, you can use that to lift a tremendous amount of weight there. I mean, water can be thought of as a universal solid, what it can dissolve and so on, what it can transport your body. I think your body, I believe, by physical weight of the lung is about 70%. Water thought to be just like the Earth's surface is about 70%. We talked about assessing aquatic health, right? Let's see, and there are a number of things we look at here at LGBTQ with respect to aquatic health, what we Primary contact recreation is one. That's one, a use where you're expected to come directly into contact with the water like a swimming pool. We can look at the concentration of bacteria, etc. for that. Okay? Secondary contact recreation, such as boating, where you might be expected to come into incidental contact with the water. That's another thing to look at with respect to that. Okay? We have standards for our drinking water supplies as well as our oysters and agriculture. And there are certain bodies of water considered outstanding natural resources. Any questions? No? Okay. All right. I know we've already talked about a lot of water parameters that we, like for example, dissolved oxygen. We know that a number of things affect it. Temperature. How does temperature affect the oxygen concentration in body water? Correct. That's absolutely true. And temperature affects the amount of oxygen, or if it's warm, it heats up. You can hold less. So if you're a critter that needs a lot of oxygen, when things get really hot, difficult to survive. Velocity. That can have an effect on dissolved oxygen too. If you've got something that's being aerated, you have issue with, say, the hydraulics, the mechanical contact with that water on rocks. Not so much in Louisiana, but you might have seen imagery in certain states, look like Arkansas, like the Colorado mountain stream tumbling down the rocks. Oxygen put in there. How does depth affect oxygen content in water? That's true. That's true. Therefore, you've got certain species that have adapted to certain conditions in water. So, pH. Y'all familiar with that, right? Okay. What's the neutral value for pH? 7. I want to say, I think that the P, I believe, refers to the negative logarithm of the molarity, concentration of molarity or something like that. The little, so where you have PLH, I think, and PK, I think that's how that works. Memory serves here. Okay. Typically, our standards for pH are around 6 to 8.5. Nutrients. What nutrients do we commonly add to facilitate plant growth? Ever looked on a bag of fertilizer? Okay. Which one? What do y'all say? Nitrogen, that's one. Phosphorus, yeah. There's another one. It's potassium is the other. Like NPK, when you look at the bag of fertilizer, often you see 3 numbers that are going to give you a percentage. They're like a 5, 10, 5 for a 100-pound bag of fertilizer. You're going to have 5. Well, actually, it's going to be nitrogen. Really, there's a conversion factor there, 2 over P2O5 for K2O. But that will give you an idea of the amount of the nutrient content of that bag of fertilizer. Therefore, you can make those decisions when working on a garden, working on a large-scale farm, and so on. Find out what you add. First, typically, you want to do a little soil test. You don't want to add more than you need. It's not a more is better situation, because if you put down more than you need, that can potentially get washed off, and we can get into the algal situation back there. That's important too. That is something to test for. Currently, we have no stages, but that is something to look for. Okay, turbidity, we talked about that. Can you see through? Okay. What is it that you typically can't see through? What particle? What down there makes it difficult to see? Often it can be soil. Sometimes you can literally see the stuff that looks like caramel just running off the field. It can also be bacteria as well, other organisms. Okay. Talk about a little bit about bacteria. Too high concentrations can be a real problem, etc. Often you'll take laboratories and take a little bit of that sample of water, put it in a petri dish, give it some type of agar, and they are going to, they may do a dilution, depending on the amount of bacteria they expect, do various dilutions, let it go for 24 hours and do a plate count. And just count up, and that will give us an idea of how many we've got. In general, you want to try to, primary content, you want to stay under 400 colony-forming units for 100 mils of water, and 2,000 for secondary. Okay, metals, we do measure a number of things. You can look at our ambient water quality networks too. Alright, some are naturally occurring, they can be introduced as well. The human activities. The study guide, we talked a little bit about the equipment. It can be pretty high tech, it can be pretty low tech, etc. Didn't bring anything like flow meter here, though there's various ways to, number of different ways to calculate flow. And there's also automatic samplers, automatic meters that you can have. Talk about standards. In this essence, we do regularly sample, maintain, verify our health. And we talked a little bit, they mentioned point source versus non-point source pollution. That been covered yet? Okay, I guess it's about time for me to wrap it up here in a minute, but okay, point source. You can think of point source, it comes from a point, literally almost like a pipe. If you see a pipe running off of active chemical pipe, etc., that is a point source. They have a permit, they should have a permit, at least from LPQ or somebody that allows them to discharge. Okay. Non-point source pollution, the unit I work with, that you may not, you don't have a point, it may be easy to determine where it's coming from, maybe run off a construction site, a field, etc., a parking lot. It may be difficult, but it does not come from a point, but rather it kind of runs off from another. Makes sense? Point, non-point. Hopefully that's giving you a good overview here of aquatics and we got what we need covered. And now, given everything that you know about this and the other stations topic that have been covered this morning, I think we're going to do a little bit of training here, probably do a scenario and put it all together and see what we can come up with. Any questions at all? Okay. If you do, once you get the study guide, y'all feel free to email me. If anything comes up, just get there, start reading, learning, asking questions, think, and remember, you can build a pretty good foundation environmentally for the rest of your life with the information that you'll pick up from this competition. All right? And we've got some plenty of goodies here. Load up, grab your gear, replace it, set it, be part of the solution now. That's also bookmarks and basics and all right? Okay. Hey, you're welcome.
Hey, Drew, unless y'all have any specific SAWS-related questions that you'd like to ask after this final 30-minute session, I'm going to go ahead and back up the building. Don't want to hang around a can. So just say some now.
The color. Yeah, you said they were expensive. I just wondering how many.
Well, it depends on how many plates. You can buy additional sheets. The standard one that you get from like forestry suppliers, it's about $150. Now it might be closer to $200. So people think these little plastic looking rubber sheets are not much more that you pay for. What you're paying for is the exactness of the color that you're getting.
Value.
And it's hard to be consistent. If you're going to print thousands of these things and distribute them globally without any error in the exactness of color, it takes a lot of QA/QC. And that's what you're paying for. But anyway, it's around, and there's that one. Your local USDA service center, Dennis Friends and Services Livingston, and East Mountain Parish office, they have a SAWS survey office there. So that number should be in the back of your study guide. a number that's missing. You have Laquan Morris and Bernal News. Both of those guys are long-time, very experienced soil scientists. But the old guys are less willing to run out and talk to you young people because they don't want to get on office sometime. I don't know, I saw how that is. But a young soil scientist in there, not far out of college himself, would be very willing to work with you. He's a fun guy to work with. His name is Brandon Waltman. And his email will be just like everybody else's in there. It will be brandon.waltman, W-A-L-T-M-A-N, @la.usda.gov. Brandon's a great guy. He's got the notes of color charts, he's got all that fun stuff. So just keep him on.
Joey, did you tell them about web soil survey?
Yes, I did mention web soil survey, and one thing that I did not mention was ePhotog. Write that down, F-O-T-G, Field Office Technical Guide. When you go to the NRCS website, you're going to see that there. Field Office Technical Guide is going to have different folder sections. You'll see that there. You have to click through a bunch of funky stuff to get to. I wish they'd make it easier, but it's there. Section 4 is the fun one. It's got all the conservation practices listed there. They all should be fun or interesting anyway, that you're going to like Section 4. If you really follow the study guide and get into these land capability classes and say, okay, here's what slope, texture, all these other things have implied as far as land capability, you know, I want to work this land. Very throw little scenario. Then you look at the land treatments that are necessary for whatever type of land use you have in mind for your land capability class 1, 2, 3, or 4, which if you remember was before the only crop classes. It will recommend certain practices or techniques. Well, Section 4 of the photog is where you find exactly what those things mean. There's a lot of them there, but it's pretty fun. Make it interesting. Web soil survey, again, that's just like the hard copy soil surveys that you saw, except in the online version. You create an area of interest, a polygon, and then bam, it gives you the soils map that you see in the hard copy. It gives it to you online, and you can request all the soil data, extract anything you want. I was going to mention river basins and watersheds earlier. Didn't get around to it. I tried management was poor. But anyway, here's a little map. It's not nearly to scale, but it gets the points across. I think the more that you do, land use-wise, from a watershed perspective, the better. It gives you a good sense of place in what you're doing and creates some distinctions between from watershed to watershed. Distinctions in hydrology and watershed, soil types and that sort of thing. A lot of people use those terms interchangeably. River basin and watershed, don't they rather imply the same thing? Drainage areas, right? Yeah. And specific central receiving water bodies within those areas. But from a technical perspective, you'll find that a lot of hydrologists and other water resource professionals let river basin imply the larger unit. Okay, and here we have all major river basins in Louisiana, and watersheds are the smaller drainage units within the river basin. Stands to reason, doesn't it? And whenever you're talking to people like the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, US Geological Survey, or DEQ, they define those smaller units by hydrologic unit codes or simply HUCs. So when you hear people talk about HUC 8s, HUC 10s, and HUC 12s, they're talking about different size hydrologic units. A HUC 8 would be like a big river basin, a HUC 10 would be like a smaller unit still, a HUC 12 would be like the tiny micro drainage units within there. So anyway, it's good to know what you're doing, the watershed that you live in, that you work in, the ones that you have to drive through to get from school to home, whatever. Make it interesting and look at the distinctness and differences in land usage from one to another. And when you go to that USDA office, if you do go to the soil survey office, they'll have maps like this. And maybe even loan them to you.